Law-abiding citizen or convicted felons? Is it possible to know the difference? There's a new law in Missouri creating quite a stir, House Bill 85. House Bill 85 is designed to protect the firearm rights of citizens. But law enforcement is up in arms now because it hinders their ability to profile and target black men legal to carry. It comes with a hefty price tag, $50K per violation. Now that's a pretty big bag. Let's scratch the surface a little bit this week on The Hood Report.
You do what you gotta do. And we follow and rally around you.
That's a legal seizure and search.
Hood Report.
You gonna open my door like that?
Yes, man. You're under arrest.
How do you feel when you hear the word firearm?
When I think about firearm, I think that the very first thing that comes in my mind is caution. I don't believe that the firearm is serving the purpose of protecting a family or an individual. Most of the time it's looked at as a weapon and not as a protection source.
House Bill 85 was introduced into law June 12, 2021 by Governor Mike Parsons. What is House Bill 85? It's the Second Amendment Preservation Act, or SAPA. It's a law designed to protect the rights of legal firearm owners in Missouri. SAPA prohibits state and local cooperation with federal officials from enforcing any rules or laws that violate the Second Amendment rights of Missourians.
The Second Amendment Protection Act was a preemptive strike by the state legislature because they thought that Biden was going to take everybody's guns away. And so that's why they passed this law to try to prohibit local law enforcement from enforcing federal gun laws. If that happened, it was a preemptive strike. But what it did when they passed it was made it harder for our law enforcement to actually do the job that they're currently doing. And so that's why we sued the state.
The mayors of St. Louis and Kansas City filed a lawsuit to halt SAPA, citing that it took power from law enforcement and put the advantage in the hands of criminals. August 19, 2021, a Missouri court ruled that SAPA doesn't assist wrongdoing and highlighted the meat of SAPA. This act declares that it is the duty of the courts and law enforcement agencies to protect the rights of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms. SAPA is now an official law in Missouri. Missouri is an open carry and permitless state, so the street team was confused as how SAPA benefited criminals while disabling law enforcement, so we investigated. With law enforcement being greatly affected by SAPA, we looked up St. Louis Police Chief John Hayden to get his opinion on this new law that's stressing his department. Keep in mind that the law was signed in June 12th. Chief Hayden pulled officers from federal details for 24 hours and then reinstated those officers to federal cases. Yes, he was fully aware of SAPA, but here's his response to the street team on August 3rd, 2021.
How you doing, Chief?
Hello.
Got a couple of questions for you. I'm doing a piece on House Bill 85,
Which is what exactly?
the Second Amendment Preservation Act.
Okay.
So you're not familiar with House Bill 85?
The second amendment. So it's some of the, if I'm not mistaken, it's some legislation about not enforcing federal. Yeah.
So what's your
federal gun laws?
What's your views on that?
Well, I'll tell you what, it certainly is. We have federal partnerships with federal agencies. So there are federal firearms laws that we would like to enforce. And so if officers are going to get in trouble for enforcing those, it's going to kind of damper or put a damper on some of our federal partnerships with respect to gun violations. And so, and we have some alternative laws that are at the state level. But I mean, I think the effort is to not have local law enforcement assist with federal.
So with respect to what Chief Hayden said, I understand he wants to bypass state law and go straight to federal law. He's only local. The stages are local, state, then federal. If it were a totem pole, he would be on the bottom trying to go straight to the top. No in between. Even though he stated it is state laws that could be enforced. Remember, it's not illegal to possess a firearm by law-abiding citizens in Missouri. So it's a particular group of people that they are after.
It's legal to have a gun, and so unless you're a convicted felon, it's not an issue. If I found out that you are armed with a convicted felon, that currently is a federal violation. That House bill that we're referring to kind of casts some questions about that and what they should be charged with. Certainly, if it's not going to be a federal charge, it certainly is also a state violation. So the person would still be, there's still a charge for state level felon in possession of firearms. So felons can't have firearms, whether I'm aware of it or not. But when I find out, I certainly can take the appropriate action.
Is it possible to differentiate criminals from law-abiding citizens? Is it easier to let loose federal agents in the neighborhood that they have no knowledge of and terrorize the community? The St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department already employs that tactic, swarming neighborhoods, conducting traffic stops that result in Fourth Amendment rights violations and treating citizens second-rate anytime the Second Amendment is involved. This citizen is stopped repeatedly over his firearms and detained. When asked what it's like,
I didn't like the detain part. There was no reason for that at all.
and you said this ain't the first time that this happened?
Nah, this is the third time this week alone.
So every time you get stopped, they pull you out your car, put you in handcuffs just to continue to...
Yeah, to search for a legal gun that's legal, registered and everything. And I tell them it's registered. They still put me in cuffs.
So how do you feel about the police, man?
I'm upset about that, very upset. But I'm legal just like they legal to carry a gun.
He's not the only citizen fed up. This citizen feels the same.
I mean, it be only thing that fucks me up is they go through the extra precaution knowing when you got a firearm, but not knowing if you're a legal firearm in a possession of it before they take you out and do all the most with you first, you know what I'm saying? That's what I be saying. It's getting cold, this shit. Nigga don't want to be getting out this motherfucker car because I got a gun, but I don't feel like I should have to tell you I got a gun neither. I see your shit, you cool, just run me for what I'm getting fucked with on for the car and leave it at that.
If officers conducted traffic stops the proper way and focused on the traffic infractions alone instead of probing every citizen for wrongdoing, it could lead to a safer interaction for all parties involved. Chief Hayden was asked if your firearm would be an issue if you created a minor infraction such as running a red light. Here's his response.
How about this? If the only interaction is about the traffic stop, then the weapon is fairly irrelevant with the exception of interacting with you. If you're not outside of the car or whatever, or I don't know about it, and we're talking about a red light, then I think I agree with you. I think that the whole issue about the gun is potentially irrelevant as long as the only reason why to stop you is because of the red light.
So why is law enforcement complaining about House Bill 85? Is it the no federal cooperation or the hefty $50,000 fine for violating the rights of Missourians? St. Louis, along with other cities, have already experienced projects like Operation Legend that included federal agents being let loose to round up criminals in selected urban neighborhoods. St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department has been, and to date continues to run firearms through the federal database in every traffic stop of a certain demographic, and even they understand that this law can't help them.
I mean, us being black, man, they ain't shit gonna be fair. You know, it should be fair, but it ain't gonna never be fair. So I already know I got obstacles against me. I got dreads, I'm black, I'm young, so it ain't really too much of a law that's gonna help.
Or could it be the fact that law enforcement will be forced to do their jobs without the trained hate? Or it will cost 50,000 big ones every time they decide to stray outside the lines of the law, and they will not have the protection of the federal government. I caught up with State Rep Rasheed Aldridge, who supported House Bill 85, and asked his opinion on Operation Legend and the federal officers working in the communities.
You got people that are leading the charge to fix the community. It wouldn't have triggered so many black people, because you talking about federal agents really that don't know the neighborhood at all, that don't know the community that they coming in and they have one job, arrest people and just take them away for a long time. That's not how you gonna reduce crime. That's not how you get the criminals, quote unquote criminals, because I think everybody deserves a second chance. But that's not how you get them off the street, by bringing in these group of cowboys to rally up and ring up a group of black people and send them away.
Is it to be traumatizing or something more sinister? What we do know is that there is a connection between black men, traffic stops, and firearms in the city of St. Louis. With racism at an all-time high, I asked this citizen, could that be part of the problem?
Absolutely. Racial profiling is nothing new. It has not went away. Just the other day, just down at the liquor store, a gentleman was going to the store and came out, and the officer stopped him yesterday. It was just actually yesterday. And they went through a whole different changes to come to find out he had a license to carry and whatnot, but just because he was black and two other black gentlemen was in the car, just because they were at a liquor store in an impoverished neighborhood, they decided to stop him and harass him for about 30 minutes.
It continues to not only trigger us, but it also don't help with the relationships between community and law enforcement when you have somebody that's saying, oh, this neighborhood is problematic, go in and round them up. No, that goes back to the defund. We don't need to be aggressive in the way that we tackling crime. We need to be smarter on crime, because crime is economics. Crime is mental health. Crime is, as we look at COVID, our community has got COVID the most, but guess what? When you go north of Delmar, you don't have no hospitals. You have clinics, you have urgent care. That's how crime is a root cause of a bigger issue. And until we address those, you will continue to have crime. And being tough on crime and arresting people ain't gonna change no solution. But when people are making money off of this prison industrial complex system, that's why they so tough on it.
As long as it's applied equally across the board, white folks have been doing it for the longest, and now that black folks have started getting guns legally, they try to impede us or stop us or infringe on our rights as gun owners. So I think this bill will help, but we have to get the police to adhere to the law.
So, will St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department adhere to the law and recognize House Bill 85 for what it is? Since the inception of House Bill 85, officers of SLMPD has been running firearms. However, carefully choosing his phrase, Chief Hayden did state that the law was in effect. So the bill actually passed, what, June the 12th?
It passed, but there's no legal challenge to it, and so we have to wait on that.
Okay.
So in the meantime, the bill is enforced or with the officers.
We cannot charge you with something that's not on the books. So I'm saying, so right now that law is being challenged. That
it's
bill
being
is
challenged, but
right.
it is enforced now.
It's in effect.
It's in effect.
Okay. I'll accept that it's in effect.
House Bill 85 was designed to protect. It's amazing that law enforcement doesn't seem to recognize that. Is it because it protects a demographic that has had their rights violated for so long that restoring it could mean immediate collapse in Missouri's fight for justice? No. It's protection for law-abiding citizens that don't look the part for law enforcement because of dreaded hair, or not riding alone, or maybe even tinted windows for their privacy. It's for the citizens that understand the law of Missouri and decide to open carry. The argument of too many firearms is valid in certain circles. Being in the hands of those that should not have them is conversations for others. Where's the conversation of those who are legal to carry being confused for those being spoken of? House Bill 85 is a preservation act.
But what it did when they passed it was made it harder for our law enforcement to actually do the job that they're currently doing.
So with regard to Mayor Tashara Jones, with what we just saw, St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department isn't doing a great job now, are they?
It is what it is, and ultimately the St. Louis Police Department is going to abide by the law.